Hello, my name is Mr. Kelvin from Educare Institute, and today we have presentation based on Physics Form 1, and our topic to be discussed today is force. We already started that topic and we already discussed about some various concepts, which is concept of force and the first type of force, which was the fundamental force. Today we are going to proceed with another type of force, which is non-fundamental force, but also we will look the effect of forces. What are the effects of those non-fundamental force? So let's start looking non-fundamental force. Non-fundamental force is a force in which the two interacting objects are in physical contact with each other. Means that when two objects are in contact and they are still interacting, the force which exists between them is what we call non-fundamental force. As compared to fundamental force, is the kind of force in which they are objects interacting, but they are not in physical contact. So let's see some examples which show the existence of non-fundamental force. But sometimes a non-fundamental force is called non-interactive force or contact force. Between their bodies, they are in physical contact. Example of non-fundamental force is what we call kicking a ball. When you kick a ball, there is interaction between the force which exists on the ball and the force you apply in your leg. So this is a kind of non-fundamental force. Also another example is compressing a spring. When you compress a spring, means yourself you apply a force, but also there is opposition force which is being offered by the spring. Also pulling a door. When you pull a door, there is two kinds of force, the force which exists on the door and the force which you apply in pulling the ball. Also friction. Friction is a kind of force which is being caused by a physical contact between objects or bodies. Tension. Tension also is a kind of the force which exists, it may exist on the string when you hang an object. Also resistance. Resistance sometimes we call opposition. Means the opposition means two bodies are in contact, but they are producing the force which causes them to have a resistance. Also elastic force. Elastic force is also a kind of non-interacting force. So let's discuss what are the effects of those non-fundamental force. Forces have several effects on objects, but the following, but there is some of them. The first one is stretching or tensile. Second one is compression or restoring. Third one is attraction. Fourth, repulsion. Fifth, torsion. There is friction, viscosity, and the last one is air resistance. So now let's start with the stretching force. Stretching force is also called tensile force. So a stretching force is a force produce elongation of the object is pulled. For example, when a spring is pulled, the stretching force elongates the spring, as we can see on the diagram. Means you stretch, kwamba ukiwa unavuta spring, ukiwa unavuta there is force applied ambao una apply wewe ukiwa unavuta, lakini pia kwa wakati huo kuna force inayoforce ile spring irudi katika hali yake. Kwa zile force mbili zinakuwa katika contact. So huo ni mfano au ni jinsi hii stretching force inavyotokea. So there is force which is force applied in stretching this spring, we say force F being applied, it means a force is applied in order to stretch this spring. But when we say compression force, is a force produced squeeze of object to origin shape and size. So the force which produces a squeeze or squeezing of the object to its original shape and size is what we call a compression force. You already stretch, now we compress and the object will return to its original shape. For example, if a stretching force removed elongated spring squeezed to its original size and its original shape. After removing a stretching force, the spring will compress itself to return to its original shape and size. The kind of force that will exist when the spring is returning to its original shape and size is what we call a compression force. As you can look on the diagram, so the spring returns to its original shape, so it compresses itself, and the force existing is what we call a compression force. Now let's look about attraction force. Attraction force is a force that pull object toward each other. As we know attraction, kwamba force inayosababisha mvutano au nguvu inayosababisha mvutano wa vitu inaitwa attractive force. For example, a magnet always attract other object like iron, kwamba kama tunavyojua kwamba sumaku inaweza kuvuta vitu vingine ambavyo vina asili ya chuma. Kwa hiyo basi huo ni mfano wa attraction force, kwamba when a magnet attract other object like iron. As you can see the magnet, there is bar magnet, there is a south pole, also there is north pole. When the north pole and the south pole are placed toward each other, there will be attraction because they are unlike poles. So unlike poles will attract. As we see on the diagram, there is attraction between a north pole and a south pole. Now let's proceed with another force, which is repulsion force. When we say repulsion force, is a force that push objects against each other. The force which push the object against each other, kwamba force au nguvu inayosukuma object vitengane, hiyo nguvu tunaita repulsion force au nguvu ya utengano. So repulsion force is a force that push objects against each other. For example, when the same poles of the magnet are close, it pushes each other. As you can see in the diagram, we have a bar magnet and there is north pole and south pole, and also we have another bar magnet which have south pole and north pole. But the south pole of the first bar magnet is placed on the another side with another bar magnet which is represented south and north. So they are placed toward each other. So there will exist a repulsion between those bar magnet, kwa sababu ni poles ambazo zinafanana. Kwa hiyo tukiwa na poles ambazo zinafanana katika bar magnet, tunasema kwamba kitakachotokea pale ni utengano, repel. So there will be a repulsion force between the poles which have the same side, because this is the side of south and this is the side of the south, so there will be a repulsion. Also there is another force which is called a torsion force. A torsion force is a force produced when a solid matter is twisted. When you twist a solid matter, you will get a torsional force. Another force is what we call friction force. Friction force is a force that prevent a body from sliding or rest. Kwamba friction force ni force ambayo inasaidia object iache kuslide au kipindi na slide au kipindi na tereza, lakini pia kipindi imetulia katika sehemu unakuta kuna friction pale. Nasema for example, an exercise book cannot slide on the top of the table due to friction between exercise book and the table. Kwamba ukiweka daftari lako juu ya meza, ile daftari aliwezi lika slide au aliwezi likatereza kwa sababu kuna force pale ambayo tunaita friction force kati ya daftari lako na meza iliyoko pale. Kwa maana ukiweka daftari juu ya meza unakuta daftari aliwezi lika slide. Tuangalie umuhimu wa friction force. Kwamba friction force ina umuhimu gani? What are the importance of the friction force? We say friction force or friction between feet and the ground enable man to walk. Kwamba kutokana na friction iliyopo kati ya mguu wako na sehemu unaotembea au na ardhi ya pale unapokanyaga, ile friction inakusaidia wewe uweze kutembea vizuri pasipo kudondoka. Another importance is what we call friction between object on the surface enable it to rest. Kama tulivyosema, unakupo na force na exist katika exercise book, lakini kuna kuwepo na force na exist katika table. Kwa ile force inasaidia ile daftari au ile friction force inasaidia ile daftari iweze kurest katika surface of the table. Also, friction between match and match stick produce it. Also, friction enable stopper to close the bottle of the wine, juice, etc. Kwamba friction inakusaidia wewe uweze kuremove stopper or to close stopper. Kwamba unapokuwa unafunga labda chupa ya wine au chupa ya soda, inakusaidia wewe kile kimfuniko kiweze kustick pale na kisiweze kuachia, kwa there is a friction which exists there. So those was advantages or was the importance of the friction. Now let's look other side, which is disadvantage of the friction. Apart from advantage or importance, there is disadvantage. The first advantage we say causes heat and lead to the heat energy, which cause the efficiency of the machine to be less than 100%. Friction force is the one which causes the efficiency of the machine to be less than 100%, because the friction force will produce heat, and that heat will cause the efficiency of machine to be less than 100. Also, cause wear and tear of various bodies, example, shoes and so on. As we already continue on walking to the ground, there is wearing of our shoes or other bodies like car tires because of the friction. Also, cause accident due to wearing of our skin when we slide in rough surface. When you slide on the rough surface and you don't wear any shoes, your skin will get wearing, because there will exist a friction force which will cause your skin to be stretched, and due to that stretching you will have a wearing of the skin. Also, things to note on the friction force: the friction can be reduced, or you can reduce the friction force by using the following The first is using lubricants. Lubricants like oils, grease can reduce the friction. Also rollers. Rollers also can prevent the friction. Also polishing the surface. When you polish the surface, you will reduce the friction. Also watering. Also this reduces the friction. Now let's look on the another force, which is viscosity force. Viscosity force is a friction force of a fluid or liquid plus gas to flow. The force which exists when the fluid is flowing is what we call a viscosity force. It involves the resistance to flow.
Purchase your tracks today.